All right. Happy Monday. Good morning, everyone. Appreciate you jumping on for Mindset Monday. We got some people that are live on the Zoom, some people that are live on the Club Growth Facebook page. And I'm pretty excited about this week's little, I guess you could say, lesson, if you will, or exercises, because it's all about change. And last week we talked about goals, and we know that, in order to hit goals, especially if we set those really big, audacious goals, then we probably need to change in some way, shape, or form in order to hit those goals, even if it's just changing habits. So with that being said, we're going to dive right in. You guys know how we kick this off by now. We're going to start the week with gratitude, because that's where we always start. And let's jump right in. First is, we do a little exercise, and we'll do that here in a second, where we go through and naming some people that we have gratitude towards. But before I jump into that, I wanted to talk a little bit about how powerful gratitude can be. And I found this little graphic when I was doing some research this weekend, which really outlines some of the benefits of expressing gratitude. You can see from physical health to sleep, to psychological health, because that's really important. Increasing empathy. I think emotional intelligence and empathy is one of the big things that I see that the world shifting to. And if it used to be all about IQ and how smart you are, now I would make the argument that emotional intelligence is just as important, if not more important. It reduces aggression. It lets you have more social interaction, especially with the last exercise where we express gratitude out to others. It also enhances self-esteem and also improves mental strength as well. So as you can see, tons of benefits for expressing gratitude. And we're going to jump straight in with listing out our gratitude. So what are the three things that you are most thankful for this morning, that you would like to give some gratitude out for? So this going to be people who are either helping you, or who have helped you, or people that have just done something for you. So we're going to list three different ones. One professional, so work related. So wherever you work, regardless of your industry, who is somebody who has helped you, or that you want to give thanks to inside the industry? Could be clients, could be coworkers, could be bosses, anybody. Number two is personal gratitude. So that is, who is somebody that you would like to give gratitude for, helping you in your personal life? Maybe it's your, significant other. Maybe it's a family member. Maybe it's a friend who just called and checked on you out of the blue. Those types of things. And then number three is going to be any gratitude you want. So just a third gratitude. I often give gratitude to my dogs, because Jen's on here. She'll tell you that they're probably the most chill dogs, and we could have some really hyper crazy dogs that run around. But the point of that is there's no real limit to what you can give gratitude for. So everybody just take another second or two, write out your professional, personal, and then any gratitude that you would like. All right, next we're going to express that gratitude to others. So we're going to put some positivity out into the world, put some gratitude into the world. What I'd like you to do is either pick one person out of your three, or pick all three, and send a handwritten note to them, especially if you have their address or maybe you work with them. Drop them a handwritten note, just thanking them for whatever it is that they did for you that you wanted to express gratitude for. And if you don't have their address or easy access to them, maybe they're far away and you don't have the home address or work address, then shoot them a text and just express their gratitude through the form of text. It'll uplift you and it'll uplift them. Me and Shelly, and then me and Jen both kind of talked about this a little bit this past weekend, is you never really know what somebody's going through. So a little bit of gratitude can go a long way in somebody's life. And next, I'm going to thank Tammy Ramsey for this one. I want you to give some gratitude to yourself. So tell me three things that you did well this past week. So the week that just wrapped up on Sunday. What are three things you did well? How did you show up and give it your best, whether it be work, home, for yourself, or helping somebody? And when you do this, I want you to be really specific about it. Instead of saying, hey, you know, I worked out, or I volunteered at a shelter, or you know, I had a good time with friends at X. Instead, talk about how you showed up to your full potential. So in this tip here, it says, instead of working out, it says, I challenged myself in Tuesday's boot camp and I took breaks when needed, and I didn't allow myself to quit. Or if you're doing a work one, I acknowledged how hard my team members worked so they felt seen and appreciated. So go through and do some details. While you're doing this exercise, what I'm looking for is effort, not the result. So not necessarily what did you achieve, but what about your effort did you put in, and put your best foot forward? Because, you know, you should be rewarded for your effort, even if it's just rewarding yourself, because we know with consistency over time helps us hit our goals, and it helps us change as a person and become the best version of ourselves. So acknowledge what you did really well. The more you do it, the more you begin to trust yourself and build momentum. I'm going to give everybody just a few more seconds to write those out, and then we'll move on to the main lesson of the day. All right, so main lesson of the day is, instead of doing a video this week, we're going to talk, since we're talking about change, there's one fantastic book. If you haven't ever read it, it's an awesome book. It's called Who Moved My Cheese? This book is a quick read. You can get through it, honestly, in probably an hour, 2 hours max, but it's all about change. And it has a great little storyline because it's all about how to deal with change in work and life. So there's the main characters of this book are 2 mice and then 2 little people. The mice's names are Sniff and Scurry, and then the little people are Hem and Haw. And these people are actually represent the different ways that people go about change. And we're going to learn a little bit about the psychology of change here a little later on. But the 4 people, or 4 characters, I should say, they represent, Sniff represents people who sniff out change early and jump into action. Scurry is about people who kind of just run out and go straight forward and you know, take on the change and move forward from there. Hem is about people who resist change because they fear it's going to lead to something else, but they eventually adapt once they know what the change will bring them. And then Haw is all about people who adapt to change, but not until they know that it leads to something better, or they're basically forced, because if they don't change, then something in their livelihood is going to be affected. So we all have, you know, share all of these traits at some point or another, no matter how much you are a quote unquote agent of change, or you're all about change. You still go through some of this on varying topics. And one thing we know is that, you know, these characters are basically in a maze, and they have to go through the maze and find cheese. Well, the maze is like life. It's like navigating through life. There's twists and turns, and sometimes we get a little lost, but eventually if we stay the course, then we will find whatever the goal is. The cheese is just whatever we're chasing at that time, whether it's a relationship, or you know, income, or a promotion at a job, or you know, a new house or something like that. That, you know, the cheese is represented by whatever it is in life that you're looking for. So what we know is that, just like the characters of this book, we all have unique skills and different ways that we go and chase the cheese. What we need to be mindful of is the comfort zones around once we find cheese. So the tendency is that when we find the cheese, we sit in the cheese and we get comfortable. We all do it. And instead of continuing to push forward and looking for that next cheese, then we just sit there and we enjoy the cheese that we have. So I think it's really important to recognize that you have to change to achieve a goal. And even when you achieve that goal, don't be comfortable with that. Like, what's the next level? It's constant evolution, if you will, of your mindset, your personality, you know, who you're trying to become, or the skills that you need to develop. See, when we get comfortable, we don't notice that small changes are happening, but changes are always happening around us. We notice the really big ones, you know, if somebody were to change careers, that's a huge change. But, you know, the little ones are the ones that we don't notice when we get comfortable. Then one day we wake up and these little changes have combined, just like it did with the characters, and all of a sudden the cheese is gone. And when the cheese is gone, that's when, the different personality types start to kick in. For Sniff and Scurry, the little mice in our story, they jumped straight into action. As soon as they realized the cheese was gone, they took back off into the maze. And the maze can be a scary place because you're going back out into that unknown world where it's full of twists and turns and things like that. But they jumped back out into the maze and they went looking for new cheese. Him, one of the little people, resisted the change and felt, and honestly kind of went into victim mentality, where he was asking, why should they change? If they did change, then they should probably get something extra. So if they had to change their routine and go out and find more cheese, then, well, they should be rewarded with something extra in addition to cheese because they had to change. Hall was hesitant at first because he didn't know what was out there, but he realized the benefit of the change, and that, if they stayed where there was no cheese, they were going to go hungry and they weren't going to be able to eat. So over time, he realized, okay, I need to change, and went out and started looking for cheese. So him thought, who moved my cheese? Hall thought, why didn't I get up and move with the cheese? Sniff and Scurry went out and got into immediate action, which was what helped them be able to find new cheese. And don't stay still when you're in the moment if you feel like it's safer where you're at. Sometimes it's not safer where you're at because of those small changes. Instead, go out and try to find new cheese, whatever your cheese is in life. And then I wrote down just some basic core principles that were found in the book. And again, I'd highly recommend you read the book. But the main things that it kind of remind me of, and I read this about every 2 or 3 years, is change happens, keep moving the cheese, anticipate change, let's get ready for the cheese to move, monitor change, smell the cheese often so you know when it's getting old. So check on what you're doing, inspect what you expect, adapt to change quickly. The faster you let go of old cheese, the faster you can enjoy the new cheese. Then change, just move with the cheese, and enjoy change. Savor the adventure, enjoy the route of finding, or the path of finding, new cheese. And then be ready to change quickly and enjoy it again and again. Keep moving the cheese and you will accomplish everything that you want. So that was just some of my notes as I reread the book late last week in preparation of this class. Definitely worth checking out. Spencer Johnson's wrote a bunch of different books. This one happens to be one of my favorite ones. So now that we have a little story about cheese, let's talk about the psychology of change. And this actually, in the 1980, Dr. James Prochaska developed the model, which is short for TTM, is trans-theoretical model of behavior change. See, because unlike the Nike commercials out there, a lot of times for a lot of us, we just can't go out and just do it in terms of change. We have to go out, and there's a process for learning how do we go about change. Well, there's actually 5 different steps. First step is pre-contemplation, denial. We don't recognize that we even need to change. We don't recognize that there's any, that, that something's going on, the minor changes because we're comfortable, or we just, are resistant to whatever it is that, we feel like we're being changed, or sometimes we're being told that we need to change. Stage 2 is contemplation. That is where you are resistance to the change. I don't need to change because of blank. That's not me. This is if I do this, then this is going to happen. Those types of things. The contemplation. Stage 3 is preparation. This is the repetitive cycle that we all go through. If you've ever had a New Year's resolution, you know what I'm talking about. For me, for example, I started my diet probably 17 times. I'm not exaggerating, before I actually got consistent behind my diet, because I would kind of start it, I would be motivated, and then I would, then I would go backwards a little bit, and there'd be a day or two where I wasn't on the diet, and then it would take me 3 or 4 more days to start. But I at least recognized that I needed change at this point. It was just me preparing to get mentally ready for the change. Step 4 was action. So this is when you actually get into the activities to initiate change. You start, reading the books you need to read, or doing the other things that you need to do. And then step 5 is all about maintenance. And that is where you sustain change for an extended period of time. This is where the habits really come into play, which allow us to change at a high level. So now that you know about change and how it happens, think back to last week's Mindset Monday topic. It was all about goal setting. And if you were in that class, you would have set some goals, both personally and professionally. So what would you need to change to hit those goals? What habits do you need to establish? And for some of us, what habits do we need to get rid of? Because see, anytime we have new goals, we typically have to get rid of some old habits and put some new habits in place. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about next week when we talk about creating habits that institute change. You can see on here, there's a My 66-Day Challenge. That's all about the One Thing book, a fantastic book. If you've never read it, I highly recommend you pick that up. But we're going to learn all about habits of change next week. So we started with goals. Then it was, what do we have to do to change and how do we institute change? And then next week is, how do we create new habits and what are tips for those habits? I am going to give you a little bit of homework. I want you to think about something you want to change personally or professionally, and come to next week's Mindset Monday with that in mind. So what is it that you want to change? What is it, a habit that you would like to establish? Maybe it's a habit that you want to get rid of. Come to that class next week, and we're going to talk a lot about that. Now, you know how we wrap this up. We are going to wrap this up with our weekly affirmation. And our affirmation is, I have the power to create change in my life. So what I like to do is, if you're on the call, if you could just unmute yourself for just a second. And we are going to say this all together on the count of 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. I have
the power to create change in my life.
Awesome. Thank y'all. Okay, so that wraps up this Mindset Monday. We had a little short session here, about 15, 16 minutes. Don't forget, come join us every Monday. We're both live on Zoom, and you can get Eventbrite tickets to the Zoom link for that. Feel free to share it with your friends. We're also live on the Facebook page, Club Growth. We'll see you every Monday at 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern. I appreciate you tuning in. Go out and crush the week.
Thank you, Matt. Have a good day.
You too.